not representing a philosophy group or a philosophy society or something like that. Why am I here? And then I saw that you very inclusively called this session Philosophical Communities. And then it kind of made a bit more sense to me. And I thought, well, okay, maybe there's three reasons I could justify my presence being here. I'm the editor of a magazine called Philosophy Now, which I founded 21 years ago. And I thought that perhaps the intersection of interests that I have with what's going on here is firstly that there's an overlap of aims, perhaps, between a magazine such as the one I run and many philosophy groups and societies and initiatives. Secondly, that all magazines are communities to a greater or lesser extent. That's been said many times. I think it's particularly true, though, of philosophy magazines. It's certainly true of Philosophy Now. It's certainly true of the Philosopher's Magazine. It's true of Think. It's true of the other magazines with similar aims in other countries, in France and Italy, and Finland. And even though the readers, the contributors to these magazines might not often meet face to face, they do communicate in many ways through these magazines. In our case, through a letters page and competitions and so on, online forums, as well as sometimes offline get-togethers as well. So I founded this magazine in 1991, having both a physics and a philosophy background when I was working for British Telecom research laboratories. And I was surrounded by a lot of very interesting people there, mostly scientists, all very thoughtful, and many of them interested in core philosophical questions. The nature of time, whether eating meat is ethically justifiable, whether there's a God. One notable case, what the purpose of life is. And these were not sort of peripheral interests. These were things that people were really wrestling with in an existential fashion. And they had no connection whatsoever with the long tradition of Western philosophy, or Eastern philosophy to that. Because the nature of school education in Britain, then particularly, was you don't learn much about philosophy in schools. And I thought it would be great if we could do something to connect these people who already have these questions with the sort of the ongoing philosophical tradition and philosophical dialogue. So that was the point of starting a magazine and trying to get it into lots of newsagents and things like that. And the aim of many of the community initiatives that represented by me here obviously overlaps with that aim. The means might be completely different, but there's a lot of overlap in terms of the objectives. Another justification for me being here, perhaps, might be that down the years, Philosophy Now magazine has been involved in various, perhaps, philosophy groups and attempts to get people together actually in the same place to talk philosophy. Or at least to help that process. I mean, even back in the mid-90s, we were listing in the magazine, we had something called Society column, and that listed those local philosophy groups we knew about at that time, of which there were a number, but nothing like the number that there are today. I think we listed 4 or 5 normally. In about 98, together with our book reviews editor, Bryn Williams, I set up something called Philosophy Now Pub Philosophy in London, because we were inspired by the cafe philosophy going on in France, generated by Marc Sauté, that movement, which was coming across to Britain. Someone called Gail Prada set up a philosophy cafe at the French Institute. We thought, let's do this in pubs. We weren't the first to do that, but I think we might have been possibly. No, I'm not even sure if we were the first in London to do it. But it was the first time we'd done it. And that went on for a while and was rather good. Although when Philosophy for All set up, few months later, also based in pubs with a slightly different approach, but extremely successful and so on. We thought there might be a certain amount of duplication going on there, so we wound down our own philosophy in pubs and tended to go to Philosophy for All events instead, which I still do. And we also put on a lot of joint events with Philosophy for All, round tables with a number of professional philosophers sitting at a panel discussing a question and a big audience. A philosophy festival last year. Cooperation is a good thing, especially, the philosophy festival was great because we got in all sorts of different groups, and all these different groups are bringing in their own expertise. So I'm a big fan of philosophy festivals after that experience. We've also experimented with meetup groups. We had the Philosophy Now meetup group, accidentally generated in about 2002, when Meetup were kind of getting going. I think it might have been 2003, I'm not sure. And an existing philosophy discussion group in Orange County, California, who'd been going for years, decided that they were going to use Philosophy Now articles as the basis for their discussion, and simultaneously decided they'd organize their discussions through meetup.com, this networking website, which many of you will be familiar with. And in setting up that group as the Philosophy Now meetup group of Orange County, California, they accidentally generated the possibility for other people who were interested in philosophy to set up Philosophy Now groups as well. We didn't know about this for some months, but once we knew about it, we set up a London one. And this is still going on. Although there was a bit of a gap, we've restarted it. There's also a New York one, which is very popular, and one in Santa Monica, California. We also have an events calendar online. Basically, it's to provide an online listing space for local groups around the world. And that's been going for some years. And we're always happy to add new things to that. There's an online form there that people can fill in if they want to add, details of a particular meeting or conference or regular event. I'll wind up now. I probably should have already wound up. I watched it.
No, you've got another minute. So it would be good for their last minute, of which I'm using up time as I speak. So where do you, how do you see the landscape developing this grassroots thing? It'd be good to speakers to end with a kind of vision. If they look into the crystal ball, you've now got 20 seconds.
I'm very bad at predicting the future. I'm much better at predicting the past.
Based on
I think it'll carry on growing organically. It's grown enormously. This whole movement, perhaps, of philosophical communities it's just developed enormously in the last 21 years. It's quite astonishing, and it's a worldwide phenomenon. And it's incredibly varied. And I think that's a source of its strength. And it's. I don't think there are certain models which perhaps are copied from place to place successfully, and there's also a lot of experimentation too. And you can't force it all into a single model.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick.